And we are back on the Chosen Baseball Journey, Magical Chapter 107. In today's episode, we have, as always, this season, Karim Garcia, the slugger, great, and lifer, baseball lifer, as I call him, and Karim with Jonathan A. Hacohen, author of the Bible 3.0, and moonlighting as well as a partner at a law firm, and I manage a professional wrestler. I don't know if you knew that. So I live an interesting life.
Yes, it is. A very interesting life.
I told you 20 years ago, if you would have told me you'd be talking with Karim Garcia and analyzing opening day, I would have said you're nuts. But here we are. So dreams do come true. So we're gonna make as my dream has come true. Let's make some other people's dreams come true, Karim, because you have a lot of fans in the world of baseball, and they've written in and they have some questions and comments for you. So with your permission today, I'd love to share some of these with you.
Of course, I'm ready.
Okay. So I picked the four best ones, and we're gonna have some analysis along the way as well. So first of all, we had an episode where we talked about the difference between Dodgers and Yankees fans.
Hmm.
You remember that one?
Absolutely. Yes.
Matty Mata 3274 wrote in, "We arrive late and half drunk. We arrive late and half drunk." Is he talking about the Dodgers fans or the Yankees fans?
Uh, Talking about the Dodgers fan, probably.
I would say yes. I mean, my experience has been so let's talk about it. For example, typical first inning of a Yankee game versus a Dodgers game. Yankees, they've been lining outside the stadium 3 hours before. They're riled up right from the start. In LA, doesn't it feel like the stadium's half empty in the first inning and most of them are only showing up by the third inning?
Well, we all know that the LA people chose by the third and leave by the seventh. So they only stay for 4 innings. So they gotta be LA.
Okay, what is worse? Is it worse to drive in New York or worse to drive in LA?
Depends where you live. Because I was living in Connecticut, so I had to drive 30 minutes from where I was living to the stadium at the Bronx. And in LA, I was downtown, which was only 7 minute drive. So definitely New York at that point.
Parking, what is worse, LA or New York?
Both, but I guess New York is more expensive.
I and if you have a choice between living and visiting, you have to pick one. So if you have to live in the heart of New York or the heart of LA, which would you pick?
Heart of LA. And I'll tell you why. The weather. It only matters to me the weather.
Interesting. Interesting. Because I surprisingly love New York more. I love the vibe of New York and what's available and out there and walking through the city. I've only visited LA once. I've been to New York dozens of times, and I was very surprised. Just it seems like not much was going on throughout LA all the time. It's you can definitely tell they love their Lakers. The Lakers are spread everywhere there, but it just the pace of everything, and I don't know. I was a New York guy, but it's funny. You're either one or the other, usually not both.
Yeah.
Question number two. We have Ty Barrickson wrote in a couple of days ago, and Ty has a beef with you about the Canada Mexico WBC brawl. You remember that big brawl?
Of course I did. I hit the catcher. How am I not? I mean, I was
Well,
a player at the plate. Don't get me wrong. I didn't hit it. I just kind of ran into him, because he was blocking the plate. So I had to do it.
this is what Ty had to say to you. He said, Kareem, a decade later, and this guy still doesn't get it. Number one, run differential mattered. So Canada kept trying to score. Number two, unwritten rules say you get one shot to hit the batter, and the pitcher needed four. What do you got to say to Ty Barrickson on the Canada WBC brawl with Mexico? Is he right or is he wrong?
Unfortunately, both of them are right. It's one of them is a run differential and WBC, which we all understand. right? And they were trying to do the best for their team to go to the next level. In this case, this pass. And the second one is you only got one shot to hit the guy. If you don't hit on the first one, you don't try three times. I mean, you already tell him you're going to hit him. So if you miss, let it go. Go for the next one. But yeah, Mexico did it wrong on that part. I had to agree on it.
If you could go back in time, if I could bring you a hot tub time machine and we go in the hot tub and it takes us back in time, it's from a movie, by the way, very bad movie. Don't watch it. But we go back in time and we're back to the WBC. Would you have told your team to do anything different for that brawl, or would you have done it the same way?
No, I mean it would have to because our blood was boiling at that point because they bumped the ball. But the run differential, I understand completely. But you're also professional major leaguers, or some of those guys that play in professional baseball, AAA or major leagues. When you're 9 or 10 runs ahead, just don't bunt, please. And you had your coaches were all stars in the major leagues. Don't do it. I mean, you just put in everybody in harm because you know there was going to be a brawl after that.
Agreed. Well, he did leave one positive comment though. He says, "I hope the rivalry continues." And I gotta say, we got North America, you got Canada, US, and Mexico. Remember NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. And I think that when it comes to international ball, because of the proximity of these countries, there's always going to be some sort of rivalry. So I got to ask you, Kareem, having been part of the Team Mexico WBC team for as many of the generations that you have, uh, what who was a big old rivalry from Team Mexico and WBC? Was it Canada or was it the US?
Definitely U.S. because we're right next to them. And every time you see a Mexico-U.S. game on the stage, and especially in Arizona or California, it's going to be a full house no matter what. And now, just to mention a little bit more about that, is United States haven't beat Mexico so far in WBC in 5 years, in five tournaments. So it's been 5 or 6 games, and Mexico is 6-0.
There we go. And I would have thought as well that there be rivalries with the other Spanish speaking countries as well. So, besides going outside of Canada, US, were there any other rivalries or teams that Team Mexico wanted to face to get Spanish speaking rights as far as the top Spanish team?
Of course, you get your Puerto Rico, you get Dominican or Venezuela, because we play in the Caribbean Series, every year in February. The winners of each league of on their country they play in the Caribbean Series. Now, if you play them on the WBC, those teams are going to be more stuck, and it's more rivals on that part. So whenever you can get Dominican or Puerto Rico or Venezuela and beat them, man, there's going to be always a good games.
So if you could pick one country, one team to face in WBC, if you're Mexico in the finals and beat them, who would you pick and why? Any team, who would you go for?
I'm going for Japan. I'm going for Japan all the way. They win 3 out of the 5, and the way that they do things, and I play there, I think I can figure them out and how to play them. And Mexico got him on the ropes. Unfortunately, we let him go in the semifinals. We had him on the ropes. Unfortunately, like I say, baseball. You know, we could have win the whole thing.
Well, we had an unknown writer write in, and he asks you that Mr. Trevor Bauer recently pitched in Mexico, and he pitched against the Yankees. It was an interesting series, and just wanted to know your general thoughts. And funny enough, when you look on the Major League Baseball website at that game, and Bauer pitched 3 innings, gave up no runs for a Yankees team that included Stanton, right? Robinson Cano was on his team for the Team Mexico. There was not one single clip of Trevor Bauer pitching on the Major League Baseball website, funny enough. How did that game go? Why is Trevor Bauer in Mexico? And are teams more likely now to sign him?
I was in Mexico City for the series. I watched the games. Trevor Bauer looked very good, especially on Mexico City, which is even worse than Colorado. You know, for the altitude, it's higher than Colorado to begin with, so the ball carries a lot more. Uh, Trevor Bauer signed 5 games to pitch 5 games for the Mexico City Red Devils, so they can show his talent to the scouts. I didn't see many scouts in Mexico City for the game because, to be honest, the team that the Yankees took over there had three players that were on their roster, 25-man roster. The rest of them were able to AAA guys, they just took over there. I didn't like the way that the Yankees treated the games because they should have bring more people over there. More players. The tickets are not cheap whatsoever. So I went with 12 people, 12 of my friends and family over there. Tickets are not it's not cheap to watch the games. To bring only three players from the roster, the original roster, it's just I don't think it's just very very good. Bauer looked very good. I think he should get another chance. Our teams are going to need him right now. Interesting that you mentioned that he did not that MLB didn't put any video of him pitching. In Mexico and the rest of the world, they did.
It's called collusion, I believe the term is, when you have, because you think about this, 30 teams from 30 MLB teams right now. How many teams, if he was ramped up, how many teams is he the ace right now? At least 10? The ace for sure.
Yes, at least.
Number two, number three starter on at least another 10 to 15 of them.
Yes.
We went through the previous week talking about a couple weeks ago about how many starters are on the DL, sorry, the IL right now. And even just think about the Rays. If he comes, if you put Trevor Bauer on the Rays right now, he's their ace. He's winning 15 games in his sleep. Interesting, interesting. And I appreciate your insight on there, having seen it live. The thing where I think that MLB messed up on this, and partly the Yankees, partly not. I mean, Verdugo is I believe his wife, girlfriend, fiance is pregnant that she was possibly delivering, and that's why, because he killed him. He wanted to be there for the hometown. Just having Verdugo alone would have made a very big difference. But I think they should have treated it like the Korea series. They should have had then the Yankees playing 2 games, actual games, and if they're already gonna have to play the official games, then they can play those exhibition games at the same time. But they had spring training games going on at the exact same time as the Mexican series. If I'm a player and I'm saying, I'm going to do this travel and everything, yeah, not going to do it. You know what? I'm going to stay here in spring training. I'm going to get ready because it does mess up the schedule a little bit, I would say, from a timing perspective. So they should have timed it where they could have gone there, had time to come back to spring training, but it was like they're kind of no man's land right before spring training. It's an odd time of the spring training season to have those games and to still have regular Yankee spring training games going at the same time. They put the Yankees in a very tough position that way.
Well, they did put in a tough position, but it's not like they traveling by car or bus. They got a private plane. I mean, what can you complain when you go from the East Coast to the West Coast and there's 6 hours on the plane coming from Florida to Mexico City? It's not even 4 hour flight. So, I mean, it's not that difficult. It's just taking more serious on these situations, especially in spring training, because uh, Yankees lost both games against the Mexico City Red Devils, which they were prepared. They were prepared for them, and they showed them. So hopefully next time they treat with a little more respect this type of games, even that there are the spring training games, and they get nothing to show, but it's for the fans, it's for the outside United States, what they're doing it for, for the global of baseball.
And let's put this out there because the owner of the Mexican team, he invests a lot of money and time to expose Mexican baseball to Major League Baseball. This has not been going on for just 1 year. This has been going on for some time. There's a special relationship between the Yankees and Mexican baseball. So this is an important series as far as, if I'm a young kid playing ball in Mexico and I can go watch the Yankees in Mexico, I think that's a huge development for baseball. This is an important series, and growing the game internationally like this is that kind of series is very, very key.
Yes, it is. And like I said, I mentioned, It was 56 years ago when the Yankees came for the last time to Mexico City to play a game over there, you know, and they win one and lost one. So, and they lost these two games. So they're not doing very well when they came to Mexico. Unfortunately, they didn't trade the right way, like I mentioned it. But again, it was so close to opening day that they probably didn't want to risk their position plays or their pitching, which it's understandable. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. I understand. Yes, do it early in the spring training. Do it the
exactly.
first week of March,
Right.
and that's it.
Or you know what, bring them out a little early, and before even the spring training games start, they get out there. But I gotta ask you, how does Robbie Cano look out there? Because it looked like he was on fire.
No, he was looking. I mean, he hit a home run. He was driving the ball very well. He's looking like the Cano that we know.
Did you get to see any of the players speak to them on the field when you were there?
Unfortunately, now because of MLB security, and I didn't want to make a big fuss, about me going over there and trying to get close. I just give them their space, and I understand as a player, you want your space, especially for this type of games that are only playing for a couple of days and you gotta go. It's just difficult.
But when you go to a game like that in Mexico City as a former LB player from Mexico, how often do you get spotted, fans asking you for pictures, etc.? Is that common?
It is, and fortunately or unfortunately enough, I was trying to, not to be too noticed, but I was sitting right behind the dugout for the home team. This case for the Mexico City Red Devils, and one guy spotted me. All of a sudden, a couple of people came to ask me for an autograph, a picture, and all of a sudden they put me in the jumbotron, and that was it. The last 3 innings of the game, I could not see what happened because yeah, people, and it's nice to recognize. Don't get me wrong. I did sign the autograph. I took the picture, took the time, but I also wanted to enjoy my the game, that I was watching.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's get to a couple more questions here. We have O Gauge Mexican Trains Mex Hippo City. I don't know what that code name means, but he wrote in, he goes, Kareem put up very good numbers in so many places. That's correct. But the memories he left all over those places as a person and a human.
Well, thank you very much for him, and then, everywhere that I play, and I play all over the place. Play Korea, Japan, States, Mexico, and each different place that I got the opportunity to play uh, is a memory for me and for the rest of my life and for my family, which they travel with me.
And it's funny because you meet so many thousands of fans during your career, and imagine for each person you meet them, that one moment they remember it for the rest of their lives, and you could come back to an athlete, a week later and they won't remember it because they're meeting so many people all the time, but those are special moments and fans do remember, so that's really nice to hear. So we appreciate him writing in. And the last one that I wanted to bring up was the episode number. So, comment number 4. Mets crying over Cody Senga. Remember we talked about Cody Senga, who, by the way, is sitting on my IL in one of my fantasy teams because I think he'll be back in May. He started throwing again. He's throwing bullpens, so we'll see. Mitchell Germain writes in, very interesting to hear what Kareem says at the 5 minute 14-second mark. No one is talking about this, and that mixed with the tough second year would explain more about why this happened than everything we've been hearing from the start. So, Mr. Mitchell has saying that Karim Garcia has identified correctly potentially what is going on with the Japanese pitchers and their issues in their sophomore second year, and nobody else is figuring this out. Karim, why do you have the secret sauce and nobody's talking about this?
Because I got the opportunity to play in Asia and I play in Japan, like I mentioned before, and I play in Korea, and then both of them are it's actually similar on their work ethics. And once they came to the States, they unfortunately do less than what they were doing, or they put less pressure on the second year because you can have the great first year, and all of a sudden in Japan or Korea they continue to do the same thing that you did the year before, or have to work even extra to continue to be at the top level. And in the States, it's completely different. You don't see these guys running around, 1 or 2 in the afternoons and getting ready. 2 days before you start. So that's another issue right there.
I saved for you the best for last, and I thank the fans, and we thank the fans for listening in. And
Thank you.
we heavily encourage you, listening into the Chosen Baseball journey and writing into Karim Garcia. He's not shy about his opinions. He wasn't shy on the field. He's not shy off the field. So ask him anything and everything you want in the world of baseball, and he will have an answer for you. So I got four rapid fire questions for you because since opening day and a couple things have been developing, I'm really curious your take because that was a good segue from Cody Senga. Yoshinibo Yamamoto. Let's call Mr. Yamamoto. So 12 years, 325 million. First game in Korea, 1 inning, 5 runs, 4 hits, 1 walk, hit by pitch. Okay, took 43 pitches to get out of that inning. 8.38 ERA in spring training over 3 starts. The Dodgers are blaming the adjustment to the MLB ball. Is he the biggest bust in MLB history? What is going to happen to Mr. Yamamoto? Karim Garcia.
No, he's nervous. He's adjusting to the culture, and I think it's gonna get better. He's gonna get better because he has something that not other Japanese guy had before, and that's Otani. He's gonna be right next to him. It's gonna help him to make the transition from the baseball in Japan to the baseball in the States, and it's gonna make it a lot easier for him. First year could be just one of those things that happen. Spring training doesn't mean anything to them or to the Dodgers. So the good thing is going to be tomorrow. He's pitching tomorrow.
Well,
Let's see what he does.
as we're taping this, he's already have pitched, so we don't know the results. But yes,
So yeah,
we
so
went back in
so
time. We went back in time. But
so, so we'll see what happens with him. What
if
happens with him when he pitches next time that he pitches and he has the opportunity to pitch, then we'll figure it out because we the second time that he starts.
if I'm Otani Yamamoto and I'm going out for dinner, right, without the interpreter, because we can talk in Japanese and I don't want the interpreter around, and I go, let's say, to a Japanese restaurant. If I'm Otani, I tell Yamamoto, you know what the best way to not have pressure from your $325 million contract? It's to have the other Japanese guy on the team have a scandal with the interpreter and gambling. So you're welcome for taking the pressure off of you because nobody's worrying about your start now because they're all on me, right?
That is correct. I mean, who cares about if I give up 5 or 6 runs on my first inning? Long as they're talking about you and what happens outside baseball, I can skate through the first few outings.
Maybe Otani staged the whole thing just to take pressure off Yamamoto. You never know. Staying on the Dodgers, I got to ask you, were you surprised that Will Smith, the catcher, signed a 10-year, $140 million contract?
Yes, I was very surprised. I mean, he's a good catcher. He's a good hitter. They think really highly of him, but they just want to probably lock him up right now because they think so highly of him and the way that he treats the pitchers or handles the pitching stuff. So it's a good move for both of them. But I was surprised.
I would say if he signed 5 years, 100 million, it'd be 20 million a year, which is not obscene for the numbers he's putting up, plus the catcher that he is. So really, all they're doing is just attacking on another 5 years, another 40 mil. The last 3 years are not going to age well, but the key is to spread the money. So yeah, you know what? I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised either because the Dodgers have a way of just locking everybody up at this point. Where I am surprised is the last two people on today's questions. Michael Lorenzen, the guy who pitched a no-hitter showing up to Philadelphia in his second start, getting a 1 year, $4.5 million contract with $2.5 million in bonuses. Were all the other teams sleeping on him? Like, I'm sorry, that's a very good deal for a guy who is a number 4, number 5 starter, potential middle reliever. What am I missing here?
I really don't know because it's kind of like you say, interesting or deceiving. I will say, on this guy himself, you know, and for $4.5 million is not a bad deal for the team, actually.
Rangers did great.
Yeah, but I mean, Rangers are gonna need pitching no matter what.
Yep.
So and because Ebaldi, how many times he got hurt, and the other guys, so they're hoping that everybody is going to be fine. Nobody is going to go to the IL, but You have to have those type of guys that can start, relieve, or do anything.
DeGrom, Scherzer over under 15 starts this year.
The Grom under,
Scherzer.
under.
Okay. So the last one, Jordan Montgomery, the guy I said was going to go to the Red Sox because his wife is interning for a medical hospital there and for medical school, and I thought for sure, no, he fooled us all. He went down to Arizona, decided to grab 25 mil and potentially not up to another 25 mil depending on how many starts he makes in his in the first season, which would become a player option for the second year. This was a guy seeking 7 years deal. This is not a win for him, I would say, and his agent Scott Boras.
It's not a win, but that was something that he needed to be done 2 days before the season started. You get a $25 million guarantee money, and if you make more than 10 starts, I think, believe 10 or 14 starts, it becomes a player option for 20 million or 5 million bonus or something like that, which goes between 45 and 50 millions for both years. But if he has the year that he's supposed to have with the Arizona Diamondbacks and the D-backs making it to the playoff, he's going to be commanding a different type of salary the year after. He's going to opt out, but he needed something to fall in right now. And the D-backs did him a favor, I think.
If I'm Scott Boras, what I'm spending the next few months doing is making a new special presentation, going to each of the teams, bringing my clients into a hotel convention center boardroom and telling them what happened in this off season, what I'm going to be doing for my players going forward, what my calculations are because if he doesn't do some damage control real quick, a lot of his clients are going to be very sweating heavily when they're a year or two away from free agency saying, I don't want to be the guy sitting at the end of spring training with no contract and signing these contracts where other people lock themselves up really early on in the off season. I think Scott Boras has a lot explaining to do with his clients because you can go from being a top agent one day to being out of the game within 5 years. And I think he's shown his methods now are not working. The teams are starting to fight back on it. And I think once the players start questioning it and there's cracks, Scott Boras is not invincible anymore, and that showed this year.
Absolutely. I think that he's going to have to, like you just mentioned, change their methods because teams are not giving up anymore so easily to him, and they don't care if they miss or a player or two to prove a point because there's so much over there. And next year with free agency is going to come a new bunch of guys, new wave of guys. They're going to need contracts. Some of them interesting, some of them, in the middle of the road. So it's always something to pick from them.
You ready for my prediction of what's going to happen in baseball for the next coming years? This offseason has taught me one thing about free agency. A lot more players are going to take those in-season extensions when they're available to them. Free agency is going to get more and more boring because fewer and fewer guys are going to make it to free agency saying, you know what? I don't want to be the one left holding the bag. When you're giving me that guaranteed 100, 150, 300, $400 million contract, I'll take the guaranteed money now. You never know when I'm going to slip on a bat. You never know when I'm going to break a fingernail. I'm taking the guaranteed money. I think we're going to see that more and more, especially with these dollars. Look at Jackson Churio and the money he makes and never stepped one game in an MLB game. This is where it's headed, I think, in my opinion. Can you see that as a former player?
I think the Major League Baseball Players Association is going to step in and take this year that just passed from free agents and really look at it and try to figure that what was wrong and why all these guys didn't sign for the contracts that they supposed to, because the money's right there. Okay, the teams had the money to pay them and to pay them real well to all these guys to sign at the end of the spring training, and for, and they're gonna talk to the Major League Baseball teams and figure something if it was a collusion, it was just something that happened on a year. But I mean, it's really strange, all these guys sign on a 1 2 year deals when they're supposed to get 5 6 7 8 10 years, you know.
My feeling is, we're not talking about the Aaron Judges and the Otanis of this world. Talk about the Blake Snells of this world, the Matt Chapmans of this world. They're great players, but they have their warts. These are not top tier number one superstars. These are very, very good players. But once the teams are saying, I want to pay them like a very good player, I don't want to pay them as the major league superstar. And, there's only so much amount of money to go around. And I think the judges and Otanis of this world are going to get their money, and the superstar rookies are going to get this money. It's that middle class that's going to get screwed at the end of the day. And if I'm in that section, I bring up Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He signed very early in the offseason, got a 3-year contract. I was a little surprised. That's the kind of players, if I'm in that realm, I'm taking my 3, 4 years and I'm taking my guaranteed money and I'm moving on in the world. It's pretty simple.
Yes, he did a great job right there, jumping right away for the guarantee money, 3 years, and then you have a good couple of years, and you figure out. I mean, they might give him an extension, might give you another 2 years with the same team in extension, and then you're fine. You don't have to
You and
worry
I
about the rest.
You and I will sit in October. We're going to look at the top 4 or 5 Scott Boras free agents that ended up signing in spring training. Let's look how their stats are going to be in 2024, and let's assess how those deals worked out. It'll be interesting, I think.
Absolutely.
He's Karim Garcia. I'm Jonathan A. Hacohen. Karim, thank you for your insights as always. And we'll be back next week with more topics as the MLB season is well underway. And this is the Chosen Baseball Journey.